I'm going to start with Matthew in South Carolina. You're on with Dennis and Matt.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Hello.
I'm doing pretty well. I was told you had a question for me.
Yes, sir. I'll get to that in just a second. In reference to what you said in a previous call, you said don't call in unless science and talk about science unless it's what is, it's being printed and what the journals are printing or whatever is printed as science, right? You said don't call in and try to justify science.
Yeah, I'll backtrack. I'll backtrack on that a little bit. I'm talking specifically about somebody who comes in who's presenting a position that is antithetical to established scientific understanding that's supported by data and evidence and experts, because calling into a call-in show where there are no experts to talk about it is not how you get your fringe view to be accepted. I don't have a problem with talking about the subjects. I'm sorry I gave that impression.
Oh, no, it's not that. It's just you were talking about like evolution and the dinosaurs and everything in that call, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the original title of Darwin's book, The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection and the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life.
Yes.
So if you support evolution and what was printed on it, are you racist?
No.
No.
That's what the science says, though.
No, actually, that's not what No. That's not what the science says. So you came up with the original title. Did Darwin have some racist views? Sure. Does that have anything to do with the natural process of one species evolving over time? No. The fact that people viewed things...
So.
The fact that people viewed things through the bigoted and misinformed lens of their time is certainly sad testament to the fact that we still had growth to do. But that's completely independent of whether or not the science shows common ancestry, shared descent, and a process by which allele frequency changes over time.
Right.
And so
facts.
Also, one of the ways this was often framed was this preservation of preferred races or whatever else. The common phrase was survival of
Survival of the fittest.
Of the fittest.
Yeah, which is wrong.
And that people took that and presumed that there was a way to assess qualities about people with regard to their fitness. And they would go in, this is the same people who believed in phrenology, reading bumps on the heads and other things like that. Fittest, from the standpoint of scientific natural selection, is dictated entirely by the environment and whether or not a particular individual within a group lives long enough to pass on its genes. And so you could be a terrible, shitty, manipulative person and pass on plenty of your genes. And so you qualified as the fittest. Like you could be like a serial rapist running around impregnating just countless people. And we would view that as a completely immoral thing. It is a fit way to ensure that your genetic code goes on. That is independent of whether or not it's a moral or ethical thing. And the same is true when you talk about Darwin's racist views and the racist views of that time. When you talk about favored races, they made conclusions about different humans that weren't based on evidence. They were based on observations of difference. And that's why when we teach evolution by means of natural selection, we have gotten rid of that racist claptrap that people try to hang on it. And we've talked about instead, this is genetics. This is allele frequency change over time.
And I'd like to add, even though we agree that evolution happens, it doesn't mean we approve of its methods.
Yeah.
I mean, evolution is not our friend. There's mountains of extinct species testifying to the fact that evolution is not our friend. And we could disappear tomorrow and evolution would carry on and wouldn't care.
The scientific facts are separate from the conclusions that people hang on it. And people could justify all sorts of bigoted, hateful, racist crap by appealing to certain scientific findings. And that just tells us about who they are. That doesn't tell you what the science is.
Right. And when aspects of evolution are not to be emulated, there's no reason we should artificially emulate them.
Anyway, continue.
So what you're saying is this science is just specific to the times. So who's to say that the science and everything that's going on now won't be the same way 100 years from now?
So I'm not saying that it's not.
The views that
No, Darwin's theory was correct.
We're still Darwin's model of evolution by means of natural selection is still the de facto standard.
Yeah. The subsequent research that has happened has added to it. It's corrected parts of it, but it's still the basic premise is there.
And if in 100 years we have a completely different understanding of biological diversity on the planet and it is better supported by evidence, then that will be the current best findings of science.
Yeah. It's like Einstein's general theory of relativity replaced Newton's gravitation, but it didn't replace it. It just, here's a more accurate model.
Yeah, the
Newton
Earth isn't
got us
flat.
to the moon. I mean, so
the Earth isn't flat, but if you're building a house, you're building it with respect to it being locally flat, which is why you can pull out a level and make sure your boards are level and everything else. But that doesn't tell you where the Earth is flat. Anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just sitting there. It's like I've heard in previous episodes where the issue of slavery always comes up. Or like, how can you believe in a God that condones slavery? So I was just sitting there like, how can you believe in a man's theory who based it on racial segregation?
But he didn't. But he didn't. See, that's the thing.
It's in the title.
Okay.
Why is it edited out if it's not? Why did they purposely edit it out?
I'm going to tell you.
Got to go looking for.
I'm going to tell you. He didn't base it on that. That was a conclusion from other observations. Darwin's observations applied to finches and other things else, and other examples. And he didn't understand genetics or anything else because we didn't have that. So he created this model that was based on common ancestry. From that, he and others made conclusions about other things as derivative from that. So he didn't base it on a racist view. He based his racist views on differences in observation and what he saw in species. It's a directional thing. Now, what you asked was, hey, I object to the Bible advocating for slavery. That's because Darwin isn't God, and Origin of Species is not a Bible or an instruction book. It's not telling you what to do. Right. It is describing what is. And from that, we continued to explore and find more information. No one is worshiping Darwin, or somebody somewhere is probably fucking worshiping Darwin, and they're wrong to do so. But it's different when you have a book that is supposed to be from the Almighty, giving instructions for how you can enslave people from the heathen who surround you. That is an instruction to do something. That's in a completely different category from here's my observations about reality, because we can go through Origin of Species and take a look at what Darwin got right and what Darwin got wrong. Now, the underlying model, this profound view of all life being related and that changes happen, and that given enough time, this is a satisfactory and probable explanation for the diversity of life, that still stands, and it's been amplified and supported by evidence, and it has survived
all tests,
every attempt to falsify it.
Yeah.
That's not true for something like Exodus 21. That's not a scientific finding. It's not supported by evidence or data. It is a proclamation that you shall buy your slaves from the heathen that surround you, that you can beat them as long as they don't die within a couple days. This is an instruction on what is morally permissible, not what is a scientific fact. So comparing the two, when you say, I don't see how you can believe a theory from a man who had this view. Well, the theory is correct, independent of whether that person was shitty. There could be a mass murdering, just absolute garbage human being who comes up and tells me, hey, 2 + 2 = 4. They're right.
I'll have to agree.
Independent of how terrible they are. That's not true for the Bible, because when you're looking at this is supposed to be instructions inspired by the all-wise, all-knowing governor of the universe and all of reality. And it's supposed to be a moral prescription. And so that's why I find it objectionable.
We can talk the semantics of language and everything regarding that, but I'll get back to the original question that I posted on here. Man, I've seen your history and everything, and I've heard you talk about how for like 25 years you studied to be a preacher.
Yep.
and I've seen the conversations and things you had. And I mean, I really like to have like a heart to heart with this right here. This is not to be antagonistic or anything in that regard, but as a man who sits there and knows scriptures, just sitting there just talking with you right now.
Okay.
Just like looking based on your backstory, your history, and the way things are now, I see like evidence of like how a Pharisee would be, not an atheist.
So I don't know what to tell you other than maybe you should stop thinking you understand me and viewing with your lens. Also, I'm not sure that that a colloquial use of Pharisee is wrong or incorrect, or if it's even in conflict. But I'm someone who does not believe that a God exists, which is why I use the atheist label.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that you think I do believe that a God exists?
I suggest that you sit there and say, "Come down from the cross so that we may see."
What does that even mean?
Okay.
Matt knows what it means.
That would be skepticism. And if somebody's in a position where they don't believe that another person is divine and they ask them to demonstrate it, then they are an atheist who's advocating for skepticism and critical thinking.
Well, let's take a look at the Pharisees. They had the scriptures. They were supposed to know the scriptures, and they were supposed to apply the scriptures to their community in a sense of leadership. But when God himself sat there and showed up and revealed himself to them, they used the Bible, they used the scriptures, they used everything to sit there to bring accusation against God. In fact, they tried to sit there and philosophically trap him and to sit there to get him to negate himself, which is characteristics of almost all your philosophical discussions. But then the Pharisees also enjoyed their place in the public and in the high seats and on the high councils. And then you sit there and you see your history of all these debates, the celebrity, sitting with all these people on high councils. It's like you sit there and traded the truth in for a consolation prize, man.
I can understand your reason for reaching that conclusion. The problem is you think I traded the truth in, and I don't think it was true. So you would need to demonstrate that it was true in order to convince me I traded the truth in.
I'll say this, man.
Do you have some way to demonstrate that what I used to believe is true?
Well, I'll just ask you this, man.
I just asked you a question.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer it. I just need to know something from you first.
Okay.
Do you deny that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? Do you deny him before men?
I will say that I do not accept that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I can't prove that he ever existed. I can't prove what he was or wasn't. If in fact there was a Jesus who was the Son of God, I have no reason to believe that's true. Am I asserting that he wasn't? No, because I have no way of demonstrating that. If you come up with a claim that's unfalsifiable, it would be stupid for someone to pretend that they can falsify it. So I may never be in a position where I can say, Jesus was not the Son of God. I'm always in the position where I can say, I don't believe that Jesus was the Son of God. I don't believe there's a God. I don't believe gods have sons. I don't believe any of these stories that have been, as far as I can tell, made up by people until there's sufficient evidence to do so. So if you're wanting me to commit the unforgivable sin, which actually that wouldn't be it, that would be apostasy, which is attributing the works of the Holy Spirit to Satan. I can never do that because I don't believe in Satan either, so I'm never going to attribute anything to Satan. If you want to know, do I actually not believe in a God? Yes. Do I actually not believe that Jesus was divine? Yes. Do I believe that Jesus rose from the dead? Nope. Do I believe that he reigns forever in heaven? No. Do I give a rat's ass what any holy book or proposed supernatural being has to say about life and reality? Nope. I care about facts and evidence and things that are demonstrable, because everything else is just navel gazing. Now, do you have a way to demonstrate? Now, answer my question. I answered yours. Do you have a way to demonstrate that what I used to believe was true?
You know what I said is true.
Goodbye, jackass.
Don't tell us what we fucking think, dickhead.